talking to Gareth about producing some, basically a history of Welsh boxing, but dividing it up into areas that people would recognise and feel some allegiance to, I suppose, either a city or a valley or a group of valleys together.
Gareth, we heard the launch of your book, South, West, Mid, Glamorgan Boxers of Wales series. Do you want to just tell us about the book?
Well, first of all, I need to probably explain the title, because basically we've already had in the series books covering Cardiff, covering Swansea, covering Merthyr, Pontypridd and the Rhondda. And obviously they're all in Glamorgan. So what's in this book is basically the bits that are left.
Sort of the best of the rest.
The best of the rest. And I did think at first, oh, this is going to be a bit of a struggle. But in fact, obviously we have Lee and Andrew Selby leading the way. And as well as them as people like Jason Cook from recent memory, Lenny the Lion Williams, and Michael Smythe. But also there are others that go a bit further back. Bill Bynan was the first Welshman to win a British bantamweight title around the time of the First World War. And he died a young man, helping his son out of the way of a rockfall in the Bryn Navigation colliery. So he died a hero, and there's another one in there who died a hero, was a bare knuckle fighter called Di St John from Resolven. And he died in the Boer War, apparently taking half a dozen Boers with him with his bayonet, and he became such a celebrity that all the London newspapers and magazines of the time were producing, long in the days of people actually having photographers at wars and things, there were artists' impressions of how he got on and surrounded by dead Boers before he died. But another who died as a hero, and all the stories of the bare knuckle boys are always interesting anyway. And there's a guy who came originally from Nantafyllan, who's probably even boxing buffs in the area. I've not necessarily heard of him, who really fascinated me. His name was Wee Willie Davis. He left the Llinvi Valley when he was 4. His father went to America to look for work in the mines of Pennsylvania. Brought him up as a boxer, and he fought pretty much every world-class flyweight there was at the time, beating a lot of them. He fought, I think it was 9 people who were recognised world champions. And then he retired at a young age from the ring, went back to school, left at the earliest possible moment to go down the pit, went back to school, went through umpteen years in about 2, went to university, qualified from university and became a university professor in his own right. Hell of a story. And it was someone I knew nothing about until I started researching the book.
What is it about boxers that make such interesting stories, you think? Because if you look in the sports section in bookstores, there's always a massive selection of boxing books. I
think they tend to have, for good or evil, colourful lives outside the ring. Like particularly these days, footballers, for example, and rugby players are sealed away from some of them still manage to get in trouble, let's not say, but they're not. Boxers as individual performers are left to their own devices so much of the time, and what they do with that makes them probably more rounded people, more interested people. And I've also found boxers generally, the ones I've dealt with over 40-odd years of covering the sport, they're so accessible. There's no press officers or agents between you and the guy you want to talk to. And they've always been very affable and helpful, and I like them because of that, as well as obviously the excitement that they bring in the ring.
You mentioned there you've covered boxing for 40 years, mainly in Wales, but I know you have covered elsewhere as well. But what's your highlight as a boxing media man or reporter in those 40 years?
I think it would have to be the greatest performance I've ever seen by a boxer, which was Joe Calzaghe against Jeff Lacey in the early hours of a Manchester morning. We came out, there was snow on the ground, and he was just so phenomenal. And what a lot of people today don't necessarily remember of that time was that Lacey was tipped to win, even by the bookies in Britain. He was the favourite. Boxing News said Lacey would win, and he didn't win a round. He didn't come close to winning a round and was never the same again.
So if people want to purchase this book, Gareth, obviously I presume it's available on Amazon, am I correct in saying that?
It should be available on Amazon. It should be available in bookshops in those parts of the area that have actually still got bookshops. But the best way is probably to go to the website of the publisher, Sir David Press, and you can order it directly from that website.
Okay, so there we have it. That's Gareth Jones's book. There is brand new. We're at the book launch here, so I'm sure it's going to be excellent. And thank you for tonight, Gareth. It's been enjoyable night.
My pleasure, Keith.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.